Alright folks, how you doing? Welcome back now, episode 6 of my casting YouTube tutorial. I'm Zambrella, and today we're going to be talking about pauses. Almost every game appears to be tortured by pauses or a pause at some point, whether it's the players having internet issues or just needing to lose sometimes. Sometimes they just need a few seconds, but others can last what seems like an excruciating long time, upwards of 15 minutes. So the aim of this tutorial is to help you understand how to handle these pauses. This also applies to times in games where there's not much going on. Sometimes, you know, when you get to that really late game scenario, teams end up just facing off each other, not doing anything, farming for 20 minutes, whatever. So I think most of these points can apply to them as well. So I guess it's kind of like what you talk about, and depending on when the pause happens, depends what you can do about it. Most commonly, they either occur at the beginning of a game or towards the later portions. So at the beginning, it's a fairly simple matter of just discussing various aspects of the draft. Who do you think is better? What are the timings of each draft? Any specific synergies, items they should be looking to go? In a lot of these of course, a lot of these points can be talked about during the game as well, but sometimes there isn't time and you definitely can't go as in-depth. So I think going through all these things, you can honestly should be able to fill about 10 to 15 minutes. If you do end up needing more time to fill, maybe try talking about the teams and the players themselves. Give some backstory to the game. I've talked about this before in a previous episode, but I think this is a good time to do it. I also think this is okay, where it's okay to make it personal and talk about, maybe the team you prefer, any experience you've got from pubs, fun little anecdotal things that make it more about, make it a bit more personal, and it keeps the viewers interested and draws them in. And this is where it can really help to have a co-caster, which I'm actually going to talk about in the next episode. But like I said before, it's quite rare to have pauses in the middle portion of the game, like between the 10 and 20 minute mark. I guess the longer the game goes on, the greater chances of issues occurring for the players. But fortunately, past the 20-30 minute mark of a game, a lot has actually happened. And I think the first thing you should do in a long pause is just recap what's happened in the game. Any major team fights or specific choices teams and players have made to get them where they are now. Then if the pause was as if the pause was at the beginning of the game, talk about what the teams can do next. This is likely to have changed since the early game, as things don't always go to a plan. You can also talk about who's got the better late game as well, as this actually starts to matter. And to be honest, there's only a few points, but I know pauses can get really annoying, but don't get frustrated. Well, outwardly frustrated anyway. It's also quite common for teams to start all-chatting to each other. Try and resist to join in unless it is like a super casual game and you know everyone and it doesn't really matter. I find that quite unprofessional. I mean, in most tournaments, it's usually a bannable offense to all chat as a caster, so just like a big no-no. I actually think you can sometimes use pauses to build up hype and anticipation as well. I mean, obviously if they're like 20 minutes, you kind of forget what's happened in the game, but like a 5-minute pause or something, you can like really start to build up the tension and the hype, especially if it's in the later portion of the games. And I think something important to say is if a pause extends for like a really long time, don't be afraid to go on a tangent. You don't want to keep repeating yourself. Make it personal. And honestly, that's all I've got to say on this topic, but I do think it's important to at least go through what I've just said. So that's it for this episode. As always, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask them in the comments section below on YouTube. And next time I'll be talking about co-casting, and this is from both the play-by-play perspective and analytical point of view, how you can play off each other and learning vocal cues. I know this is something I'm still very much learning myself, but I think obviously by teaching I can get better at it as well, and hopefully you guys can learn some stuff. So yeah, if you did enjoy this, please feel free to subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitch and Twitter at Zambrella101, and visit my website www.zambrella.com/casting. And until next time, guys, have a good one.